Litecoin price prediction, the underestimated comeback, and the data doesn't lie. Many believe Litecoin is dead, but the data shows the exact opposite. I'll show you why this altcoin is preparing for the comeback of a lifetime in 2026, and if you want to know why smart money is suddenly buying Litecoin again, then stay tuned. Welcome to 10x Crypto, your channel for honest data-based altcoin analyses. Before we start, if you want to trade cryptocurrencies, then use my favorite crypto exchange. There, you'll get low fees on the one hand, and it's one of the most secure platforms based in Switzerland. And if you use my link, you'll also get up to 50 euros in Bitcoin, and you'll start directly at the silver rank, which means you get cashback. So the link for that is in the pinned comment. But now, onto Litecoin. What is Litecoin actually? Litecoin isn't some new hype chain coin. Instead, it's one of the oldest and most secure proof-of-work coins on the market. It uses the same blockchain technology as Bitcoin, but with an important difference. Litecoin is faster, cheaper, and more scalable. One block is created every 2.5 minutes. With Bitcoin, that takes about 10 minutes. This means payments go through 4 times faster, and that's of course ideal for everyday transactions, but also for micropayments. So what technical features does Litecoin have? Litecoin uses the so-called script algorithm. This allows miners to participate in the network and ensures more decentralization and security because, as I said, smaller miners can also participate. Additionally, the network was equipped with the MWEB extension. That stands for Mimblewimble Extension Blocks. This ultimately makes private transactions possible without losing traceability. This is an important step between transparency and data protection, a topic that will become increasingly important in 2025. But before we dive into the deep analysis, feel free to grab a coffee, leave a like for me, and if you want to find real altcoin gems early, then check out my 10x Elite membership. There, you'll get insights into my personal crypto portfolio, everything I'm invested in and where, but you'll also get access to the full 10x ranking list. I've analyzed over 100 altcoins there. At the same time, you also get access to the 10x indicator that I use in every video. So if you want to move away from speculation from chance and instead rely on data, structure, and strategy, then the 10x Elite is the next logical step. You'll also get a 30% discount on your first month right now. All the info is in the video description, it's the very first link. But be warned, a disclaimer. My channel is not financial advice, but purely informational. As always, let's get to the first point, market capitalization. Litecoin is currently at around $8 billion, making it one of the top 25. So it's no longer a small coin, nor is it an overpriced one. Back in 2021, the valuation was around 25 billion. Today, we're looking at a much healthier valuation. Litecoin remains strong and still has room to grow. Especially if institutional interest really starts to notice Litecoin, then more capital will flow back in. Still, because it already has a fairly high market cap, it only gets a 6 here. Next, the circulating supply. Over 91% of all Litecoin is already in circulation, which is extremely strong because it means there's no hidden supply, no major unlocks, and no inflationary pressure. Around 7.5 million Litecoin will be released by miners, and that happens slowly through the halvings, just like with Bitcoin. And the next halving is in 2027. That gets a strong 10. Next, let's look at Litecoin's roadmap. Litecoin remains very active in its development. As mentioned, after the MWEB extension for more privacy, there's also LitVM, a layer 2 solution that allows smart contracts, NFTs, and DeFi to run on Litecoin. And the big deal here is that while Litecoin was previously just a payment network, this now opens the door for new developers and new applications. A strong 8 in this category. Let's move on to the team, founded by Charlie Lee, whom everyone knows, of course. He's a former Google engineer and also an ex-Coinbase director. He's still active in the space, bringing experience and credibility. And he's supported by Xingxi Wang and Alan Austin, as well as a strong developer team from the Litecoin Foundation. Over 13 years of continuous development without any major security issues. A strong 9 for the team. Next up is the narrative. You could say Litecoin is what Bitcoin is for the rich, just more practical for everyday use. The motto is digital silver to Bitcoin's digital gold. It's fast, cheap, and perfect for daily use, payments, and transfers. In an era of rising fees on Bitcoin, this is a very relevant niche. A strong 8? So what problem does Litecoin actually solve? Bitcoin is slow and Litecoin fixes that. It's 4 times faster, block times, transaction costs of under 1 cent, and it's compatible with many wallets and exchanges. For merchants, payment providers, and users worldwide, that's a real advantage. A strong 9. Next, let's talk about sustainability. Litecoin uses the so-called script algorithm, which consumes less energy than Bitcoin. It's about 18 kilowatt hours per transaction, while Bitcoin uses over 700. Additionally, many miners are already running on renewable energy. It's not a perfect score, but it's significantly more efficient than traditional proof-of-work networks. Therefore, a solid 7 here. Then we come to the topic, who is actually invested in Litecoin? How much capital does Litecoin have? Litecoin, of course, had no ICO, no pre-mine, and no centralized token allocation. It was an easy and fair start. Today, the project is supported by companies such as 6 Degrees Ventures or Digital Finance Group. In addition, there is growing interest from institutional investors. For example, through the Litecoin ETF. Here's a strength of 7, then it would actually be a competitor to Litecoin. The biggest competitors include Bitcoin Cash, but also Dash. And of course, Bitcoin itself. As mentioned, Litecoin is faster than Bitcoin, has low fees, and for example, a longer history than Dash. In comparison, Litecoin is in a solid position, both technically and in terms of adoption. And if you want to see, for example, the analysis of Bitcoin or other altcoins, then check out my playlist in the Zenix universe. I've linked it below in the video description or here at the top of the video. Here. A solid 7 in that area. And by the way, for next weekend, I've found 2 more exciting altcoins that I recommend you don't miss, especially when the altcoin season starts, so you're prepared. So subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss it. Let's move on to marketing. Litecoin doesn't make loud promises, instead they work consistently. With summits, active social media campaigns, partnerships such as Coinbase, Binance, and several payment services. That's solid, but not hype marketing, which Litecoin doesn't need anyway. Strength 7. Then we come to the next point, the simplicity of the idea. Litecoin is basically simple, no complicated token system, no layer 2 jungle. Simple, fast payment on a stable blockchain. I think everyone understands that, especially beginners. Strength 9. So what is the long-term vision for Litecoin? Their goal is to build a global financial and payment system with data protection and DeFi integration. The technology is growing, the community is persevering, and Litecoin itself has been stable for over a decade. A strong 8 in that area. Then what about the tokenomics? Is Litecoin deflationary? What about max supply? A maximum of 84 million Litecoins, no more. No inflation. A halving every 4 years? This allows for planning and increases value in the long term. A strong 10? Then, what about the fully diluted market capitalization? For Litecoin, it stands at $8.5 billion, with a market cap of approximately $7.8 billion. Of course, this always changes a little depending on when I recorded the video. The ratio is approximately 1.1. That's very low, which means a low risk of dilution, and that's extremely positive. A strong 10. Next, let's look at the trading volume. How high is the liquidity? The 24-hour volume was $1.66 billion. That's about 20% of the market cap. This means high liquidity, less slippage, and active interest. A strong 10. Next, let's talk about token distribution. There was no pre-mine and no vesting schedules. Everything was distributed through mining. This ensures fairness and stability, which is of course a positive. A strong 9. Then let's look at the top holders. The 100 largest wallets hold around 40% of the coins. That's solid, but still a bit concentrated compared to Bitcoin, for example, which is a bit better distributed. That's exactly why it only gets a 6 here in this particular case. Now, moving on, what's the practical utility of Litecoin and how does it compare to others? Litecoin is used worldwide as a means of payment in apps, online shops, and for DeFi integration. This is extremely positive. Over 2,000 merchants accept Litecoin directly. A strong 8. Next, the community, the Litecoin community. They have an active community on X, so Twitter, Reddit, Discord, and Telegram. Long-term holders, many developers, and constant activity. Extremely strong. By the way, are you a fan of Litecoin or do you hold it yourself? Write hashtag Litecoin in the comments so everyone becomes aware of data-based analyses like this and of Litecoin, of course. Feel free to leave a comment. A strong 8 here. Then what upcoming events are there? This is extremely important. The next major event is the Litecoin Summit in Las Vegas. In addition, there's the expansion of the Lite VM, but also new partnerships in the area of ETFs and payment networks. So, many small puzzle pieces that could lay the foundation for 2026. A solid 7 here. You know what's crazy? Many have long since written off Litecoin. But that's exactly what makes it exciting again, because when everyone has looked away, that's often when the strongest movement begins. And the data here clearly speaks for itself. Litecoin is in a stronger position for 2026 than many believe. On my 10x ranking list, Litecoin has achieved over 81%, so that's a clear strength. But what does that mean now? On my 10x ranking list, Litecoin has achieved over 81%, which is a clear sign of strength. Litecoin is a solid fundamental project. I'll display the 10x ranking list here for you. Through ETFs, institutional interest might also come. More than 90% of the tokens are already in circulation. No inflation, no hidden supply. The roadmap is strong. With MWEB and LitVM, they're bringing new opportunities. DeFi, NFTs, Layer 2. Technically, Litecoin is 4 times faster than Bitcoin with lower transaction costs. So, if you thought Litecoin was history, then you should definitely take a closer look. Now, as always, let's get to the price scenarios. Let's start with the bear case. Let's begin with what no one really likes to hear. The bear scenario. Imagine the altcoin season doesn't happen, Bitcoin continues to fall, liquidity withdraws. The confidence in the altcoin season is no longer there. In such a phase, Litecoin could land at around $50 to $70. In a bear market, of course, it would be significantly lower. Then let's move on to the normal scenario. Here, the market develops healthily, the market grows steadily but slowly. However, institutional investors will still take notice of Litecoin. This brings new confidence, and Litecoin becomes part of the digital infrastructure. In such a case, Litecoin could mathematically reach about $120 to $180. Now let's get to the optimistic scenario. This is where it gets a bit more exciting. In the optimistic scenario, we see the market, let's say, picking up more speed again. Litecoin benefits from its new MWeb and the Lite VM, so it's truly traded as digital silver. The trading volume increases massively. In this phase, Litecoin could purely mathematically rise to $250 to $350. Now let's get to the very optimistic scenario, the visions that most people no longer believe in, but that's usually the point. This is the very optimistic scenario. Imagine Litecoin becomes widely accepted as a means of payment. DeFi on Lite VM works. New investors, new use cases, maybe even regulated funds with Litecoin holdings. Then we're talking about prices of $500 to $700. Now let's get to Vision 2030. Cryptocurrencies are everywhere in daily life, in banks, as a global financial system. Litecoin, fast, decentralized, proven, becomes part of this infrastructure. If this vision becomes reality, then we could reach mathematical price targets of $1,500 to $2,500. But what does it look like right now? Now for the chart analysis of Litecoin, I'll show you now what the current situation looks like. Hello and welcome to my chart analysis of Litecoin. First off, to start, for my charts I always use TradingView and my own custom indicator. I'll explain it very briefly. Here we have a large green dot, which basically means, for example, when many people are selling, that we're entering an oversold zone. On the other hand, if many people are buying, for example, FOMO kicks in, the hype builds, and then we enter overbought areas, it's indicated by a red dot. And the small red and green dots are basically trend reversals. For example, here. Here we had a bullish trend reversal, after which Litecoin was pushed up by about 42%. But now we're going down again. We've also formed a red dot at the moment, which means we have a bearish trend reversal, so it could continue to go down from here. Yes, and that's basically the situation with Litecoin at the moment. We've formed a red dot, where you definitely have to be careful. And we are also in the middle range here, so I'd say purely from a data perspective, it's difficult to assess because we're not oversold, let's say, but we're also not overbought. When I, for example, get into altcoins, or if you want to use the 10x indicator yourself, then on the one hand, it's available in my 10x Elite, but you can also get it independently. I've put all the information in the video description. It's the very first link. Stop. Before you go, I have another altcoin here that could be extremely interesting for you. If you're interested in Litecoin, then you'll also be interested in this altcoin. Why I have it on my radar, all of that is right here. Have fun and see you in a bit.